All right. Good evening and welcome to the Monday, September 25th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. We'll go ahead and start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller.
Present.
Alder Jim Hutchinson.
Present.
Commissioner Sidney Bremer.
Present.
Commissioner Michael Paradek.
Present.
And Commissioner Darius Daniels and Commissioner Ken Ravinsky are both excused for this meeting. Moving on to the approval of the agenda. Approval of the agenda for the September 25th, 2023 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Praddick, second by Vice Chair Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to the approval of minutes. Approval of the minutes from the September 11th, 2023 meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Praddick, second by Commissioner Bremer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then moving on to regular business. Now, item number 1 is a public hearing. This public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. We will now open the public hearing on item number 1. Public hearing on the request to rezone 0 Emmett Street from General Industrial District to Low Density Residential District, submitted by the Department of Community and Economic Development property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This property is on the city's west side. This is near the intersection of Velp and Atkinson, which is just off the screen here. Back here, there are a lot of single family homes, but also a lot of vacant land. This was historically a very wet area that has now been lifted out of the floodplain. Or as we're working to do some fill work here. So both of this and the next application are concerning this area here. As far as the zoning is concerned, this is a very weird mix for us. General industry right next to R1 zoning. This has coincided pretty peacefully for decades. So we're not in the business of switching that up too much. Future land use does show a swap to commercial, which is a recommendation out of our Velp corridor plan. And then maintaining the neighborhood here with that R1 or low density uses here. So for the request, we are this parcel here, which is split across Linden Street. So it would be, this is still one parcel only. It would eventually be split into 2, but for both of these to go from GI to R1 to match the surrounding neighborhood. This will also require a city surplus application, which is below on the agenda. Thank you.
All right. So now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who's in favor, in opposition, or providing information only. Is there anyone looking to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 2. Consideration with possible action on the request to rezone 0 Emmett Street from General Industry District to Low Density Residential District, submitted by Department of Community and Economic Development property owner.
Thank you. We are recommending approval of the request.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Seems extraordinarily straightforward and in line with the comp plan, so I move approval.
Second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Bremer, a second by Commissioner Praddick. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward then to City Council for
The 3rd.
okay, October 3rd. Okay. All right, moving on then to item number 3. Consideration with possible action on the request to declare city-owned property as surplus located at 0 Emmett Street, submitted by the Department of Community and Economic Development property owner.
Thank you. Same spiel. So for this, we have the valuation listed in here for both of the properties as after they're split. This is, we're recommending this for direct deed to the redevelopment authority to develop both of these for single family homes or low density homes. This one will probably be built on right away since it's separated and already small enough. This, I'm sure some sort of future split will happen. This road here isn't quite developed yet, but I'm guessing there'll be at least a single family in the front here. Not quite sure what's gonna happen on the east side of the parcel. But we are recommending approval with that condition that it's deeded to the RDA for this position development.
Just a question for staff. That, when you said that about the end of the property that's near the road that hasn't been developed yet,
Mhm.
is that gonna impact anything in future development of a road? With this approval?
No, all of these parcels are already owned by the redevelopment authority, as are these two. So if we wanted to put a road in for more single family or low density development, we could. If we don't want to and want to make this all one development site, we could also do that. So pretty much it's all under city or RDA ownership at this point. So I think it'll just kind of depend on the market.
Motion to approve?
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Braddock and a second by Commissioner Bremer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then we'll go forward to city council for October 3rd. Moving on to item number 4, which is a public hearing. And this public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that after your name has been called, you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, whether you favor, oppose, or open providing information in this matter, and your comments or concerns. We ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. And you must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and please address your comments to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. We'll now open the public hearing on item number 4. Public hearing on a request to rezone a portion of 3164 Finger Road from office residential to general commercial, submitted by Mach 4 Engineering and Surveying LLC on behalf of Early Child Care 2 LLC property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the request before you tonight has to do with split zoning that's on the property. The city has received an application for with a site plan for a daycare as well as a land division that involves this particular section of the property. The property in red is currently zoned OR, but the rest of the property is zoned C1. That took place a little over a year ago, when the request came in. At that time, there was a little bit of concern that OR was zoned R3. And the request was to turn that into C1 at that time. But a lot of the concern that after reviewing the meeting from a year ago, seemed to be related to traffic. And then not knowing what the actual use of the property was gonna be. And the recommendation by staff at that time was then, when something more definitive comes in, to apply for a rezone at that time that's appropriate for the use that's being proposed. So, as you can see here, what the zoning districts are in the area to the south is not rural residential. That is a planned unit development there for the industrial park. But 2-family and single-family homes to the north and northeast. And then I believe that's R3 there. So there is a wide variety of uses. And then when it comes to the future land use map, the future land use map does show the property as being commercial. So the C1 district does comply with that, with our comprehensive plan. This is, if you can go to the next slide. And then this is showing what that's so blurry. Oh my gosh, that looks terrible. Shows what the proposed land division was that was submitted. So lot 3 is where the proposed daycare center would be located. And then if you go to the next slide, and then this is a portion of the site plan. The site plan is rather large. But it shows the layout, where the parking would be. The parking would be more on the Mason Street end of things, on the south end of the property. And then there's a decent amount of wetlands there that kind of really prohibit development in that particular area. And then the next slide does show what the elevations would look like from the different directions. So we can't approve either one of the site plan or the rezone. Because you can't have that building and site on 2 different zoning districts. It's very difficult to know which portion of the code to use for each site, for each parcel with the zoning. So the request has been submitted to turn this into C1. I guess that's all that I have.
Okay,
At this
thank you.
time, and then I'll state more later.
All right, sounds good. All right, and then with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who's in favor, in opposition, or would just like to provide information on. Is there anyone looking to speak? Will you state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Bob Mock 4 Engineering, 2260 South Scheider Court. Just wanted to provide one additional piece of information. I'm working on another site plan, which was on the middle lot on that diagram, which occupies a portion of the area that we're petitioning to go from OR to C1. The project that we're working on there is a dental clinic. So just so you have an idea of what those neighbors are across the street from the residences, and I think, you know, it's a valuable piece of information and pretty low intensity use. So, all right,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
My name is Chris Hanold, 613 Welland Avenue, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54311. If I'm referring to my phone, it's for a note. So I am in opposition of this. Actually, I was in opposition back in July of 2022, back on July 11th. I was on the meeting, stated some concerns that I had. The next thing on the August 2nd meeting, they did not show any concerns that were raised. I did send an email to my alderman on July 11th regarding some of the reasons. And I'll say first and foremost, I am not against any type of development overall. I was born and raised in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and hope to continue that raising my children here. This development really has me scratching my head. And to be honest, I'm worried. I'm worried because Finger Road is already congested, and that's not even a main gateway yet. There was mention of a dental clinic. There's also a Starbucks that's going in. And unfortunately, that has me very worried and nervous for my children. There are a lot of buses that go on that route to pick up school children each and every single day. And I'm afraid that we're going to offload the traffic on East Mason Street to Finger Road because the entrances are off of Finger Road, right? The parking lots were stated to the south. That means that the entryways are going to be on Finger Road. This one's really a head scratcher to me. It really is. It's a head scratcher because this spills right into residential, as you said, 1 and 2 family residents. Of the notification zone that's in the picture, there's 10 homes. 3 of the houses in that zoning area are residential, the rest are duplex. So that's a 30% rate of people who are long-term residents in that area. But I'm also concerned with the notification. Dina, thank you for the information you provided me via email. I remember the time that I called you and I saw the sign out there. I went on the website. There's no information available for the public for this. That one had me a little bit concerned. I actually raised the concerns with our neighborhood association group, which they were not aware of this as well. That's a concern. So when we talk about proper notification for the public, I don't believe that it was 100% available for the public to see. That's not really my concern as much as what this will do to commercialize that land. I mean, this is going to be another commercialized area where right directly to the north are 1 and 2 resident homes, a lot of duplex, a lot of school children. That is going to be a nightmare. And it's something that I don't wish my family to have or others. There's many single family residents in that neighborhood. And my number one thing is not about site. It's not about anything other than safety on Finger Road. That is going to be a very congested area, and those homes to the north are going nowhere. The duplexes are going nowhere. So all I ask is for consideration, better notice to the neighborhood, so we can understand a lot of the facts within it. We can know a little bit more about the land. I think you mentioned there's some wetlands possible in the area. That's okay. It's probably a good time to tell me 3 minutes is
I
up.
was gonna say, that is the 3 minutes, but
Yes.
my clock timer is, oh my god, that's
That's-
obnoxious, and I tried to stop it before it came off, and it's still not
No, that,
technically challenged, I guess.
all good. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this, and thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Go ahead.
Dan Chatham, 478 Welland Avenue. I guess not terribly different than the previous speaker. Didn't really know anything about this until within the last few days here. And while my particular residence is up the road a little ways, and I, have nothing against proper development. I think it's important for the city and our growth. I'd moved to the city many years ago and worked for the city and picked that area because it was close to some commercial. It was a nice middle of the road place to live. I guess there's a lot of uncertainty at this point about what's going to happen for traffic pattern. I know a while back, there was some discussion about punching Welland through to Mason Street. I just had $1,000 increase in my taxes this last year and a valuation increase of well over $100,000. And if my street gets turned into a racetrack, which it's already bad enough coming off Finger, but if it's coming off Mason Street, it's going to be that much worse. Unacceptable. Just straight up unacceptable, because people are going to choose to go around it when Finger Road gets really, really bad, which it does, especially during some particular, that softball diamond off of Finger Road. That Finger Road gets heavily traveled once that season's active. So sure, there's a couple off months, but it's a very busy stretch of road. And then Welland and the neighborhood streets, Ontario, kind of pick up a lot of the other stuff around, when that gets congested. The other issue is that, again, tried to reach out when, prior to the Starbucks thing, just finding out about that. When there was some discussion about a coffee shop going in there, because previously there was an effort to put in a gas station at that intersection. And the neighborhood was vehemently opposed because of the congestion, because it's such a short run of street. So I think there has not been enough effort to notify and communicate. There's been no return communications, things like that. That's not your problem. That's our older person's problem. But, for you guys to be aware that that's not what we're paying for in our taxes. So I just want to make sure that our concerns are being heard. That's all I've got. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
Yeah, John Crabb, 505 Larry Lane. I represent the McCall Park Neighborhood Association. I'm the president. My reason for speaking on this right now is I was just informed of this essentially about 4 days ago. there was a letter that was provided onto, our chat, through Facebook, basically saying that, the association was notified of this, occurring. And that notification was on the 19th. I am here to say that has never happened. There's never been any notification to the neighborhood association at all, neither via email nor by a letter. My predecessors in the past have been receiving notices of any type of activity kind of going on within the neighborhood. Have not received anything. So I don't know, you just have the wrong contact stuff, but the last thing I did receive officially through the city was basically saying the portion of Finger Road west of Challenger that the project to put in curb and sewer has been delayed. Other than that, I know there's a lot of people in the neighborhood that would be concerned about this, that would like to have a say more so, and it's part of my job as an association president to provide that information as much as possible. So just kind of feel that without the adequate notification, there has been adequate say for anybody. And then all it says is like 200 feet of people around the area that they're the ones that are getting any type of concern or a letter. You're looking at, for the most part, only a couple single family homes right there, a lot of duplexes. So those duplexes are probably owned by landlords that, not in the neighborhood, probably don't have a care in the world what happens in the neighborhood. So that's what I'm kind of saying. I think, if anything, this project should allow for a better notice. Maybe an opportunity to maybe come out to an association meeting where people can kind of express some more concerns on this, or at least have that type of ability. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward, and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 5. My apologies.
Woohoo.
Oh,
Moving on then to item number 5, consideration with possible action on a request to rezone a portion of 3164 Finger Road from office residential to general commercial, submitted by Mach 4 Engineering and Surveying LLC on behalf of Early Childcare 2 LLC property.
thank you, Chair. So staff has no objection to the rezoning of the parcel, to C1. But we do want to make it clear that we are not in support of any future conditional use permit applications for any type of auto-orientated uses on Finger Road. So if there's any type of drive-through that comes forward, we would not support that. And, after hearing the concerns, especially, staff, we have no objection to the proposed land division. But we did, when we reviewed the site plan and the land division, there were some concerns with the floor area ratio. That the site, that lot 3 is actually too big for the proposed development. So the surveying company is working on that to create or to fix that issue. Because we would not support any type of variance because we feel that's a self-imposed hardship. As far as the notifications, so Alder Hutchinson, the McCullough Park Neighborhood Association via email on the 19th. And neighbors were notified, of within 200 feet were notified of the meeting. I'm not sure what actually happened when it comes to the email notification. But I do have the email and the dates. And nothing got sent back to me, like it was a wrong email address and it did match what was on record. As far as putting it on the staff or on our website, that was put up late and that happened, I believe, on Friday, so that notification did get up there late. But we do recommend approval of the application. It is, it is currently zoned office residential. Which is a higher density type use, so meaning you would need to have more building and less property for it. So this actually makes the site, the green space, if you will, can be a lot larger, or the less building can be larger.
Yeah, so you've probably heard the term FAR, or floor area ratio, some of you are very familiar with it, new people maybe not. So that is basically how much building square footage needs to be on a certain amount of lot area. Our lowest, I believe our lowest one is C1, which is 0.1. So if you're looking at a 1-story building, it's 10% of the lot area has to be covered with building. Many reasons for that condition. But when you get to the OR or the NC districts, it goes up drastically. So again, that would be a 0.1 in C1, and an OR, which is currently zoned, would be a 0.3 minimum. And in neighborhood commercial, I think it's 0.5. So that OR and that NC really meant to be commercial corridors or commercial nodes, so to speak. And the OR is almost, I wouldn't say exclusive, but a lot of times it's downtown areas that are more dense. Well, I just wanted to kind of.
And then, thank you, and then one other comment that was brought up was about Welland Avenue. And on our official map, we did look, that is not an officially mapped road to go through there. This application doesn't include Welland Avenue. If that were to happen, that would have to come through a developer. If there's any type of use that would come forward that is more auto oriented, for example, a drive-through, that does have to go through the conditional use permit process. So just to kind of clarify some of the other concerns or comments that were mentioned.
As you know, staff, we go with comprehensive plan recommendation, which is commercial.
And this was all C1, which until like about a year ago, wasn't it?
This area had a plan unit development over the top of it. They requested a C1 except for the R3 portion, right?
They requested C1 for the whole of it. It used to be mostly I think it was all R3, just like the neighboring lot. And then we rezoned it to mostly C1 outside of this buffer area because of this reason. We wanted to know what was going to be going in there. But prior to that, there was a PUD over it that had expired. So the R3 was the base zoning for years prior to that.
Yeah, this stretch of Mason Finger was all probably in the late 80s, early 90s, all designated for big box retail. So Walmarts, Shopko's, Targets, obviously the economy changed in the 2010s, and those are not really progressing like they used to. As far as they used to. So that plan development basically expired.
So having that small section that's zoned office residential right now, that could actually be, you could put a more dense development on that right now than you could if it was a C1.
Well, yeah, the C1 could go more dense. You can put it this way, we put less dense on the C1
Right,
than you could in the OR.
Right.
Either of them could
Oh,
lower
right.
both.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously you'd have to create the lot lines to match the zoning at that point. And we don't do sort of a lot. Right?
Is,
Hi.
sorry, is Finger that's a county road, right? Technically,
I think it's County Road N.
Yeah.
Is that right?
are we aware of any improvements that are set to be made on Finger anytime in the near future?
No, I don't know.
I mean, it's definitely underutilizing or underserving pedestrian cycle. Everything is very auto oriented there. If we're gonna keep putting commercial onto this, there needs to be some pedestrian considerations for it and traffic calming. And if it is a county road, I think we need to start having those discussions about that. If we're gonna keep putting commercial onto these lots, especially with the residential right there.
I believe that this area of town, we have the control over the county roads there.
Okay.
So that would be a city project that would go through. It sounds like that was something that maybe they had planned on doing that's just been delayed.
Okay.
But they base the need for sidewalks generally off of the traffic counts. So if it's a collector or higher, that they require the sidewalks. So that's part of our code too. But I haven't seen anything from DPW about a redesign for this road, but they have the space and it doesn't even have curb on one side.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that that would be part of it, it's a full infrastructure update.
I think it would make the neighborhood probably feel a little bit better if there was some consideration into, hey, this is gonna be happening in 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, to take that into account, because it is a racetrack right now at times, and something would certainly make me feel a little better about that. Sorry, Sid.
No problem. I just wanted to confirm that the dotted line represents the notification area so that all of the homes, both duplex and single family across Finger Road from the east side of that block would receive notice. Is that correct?
Yeah, it wouldn't have done the ones that face on Tolman and Drive to the north there, which is. the ones
Right,
that are
but the
there.
ones facing Finger.
Yeah, and it goes to the property owner, it doesn't go to the people that live.
Oh, the people are tenants and somebody else owns the property.
Yeah.
It's the owner that would have gotten the
Yeah.
notification, not the tenants.
Correct.
We did update our letters about 2 years ago to in there specifically say, if you don't live there, please share it with the occupants. If they do, we don't know, but that's as far as we can really take it legally.
I remember during an earlier occasion where that question came up, we also talked about posting notifications that on the property. Was that done in this case?
Yep.
Yeah.
So people across the street would have seen a notice there.
Yeah, that's there.
Whether they, again, cross the street and read it would be another question.
And when did that go up?
2 Fridays.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
15.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also wanted to check. So the OR section was kept there as a buffer, Stephanie said. And when you say as a buffer, was that with attention specifically to the residential area across the street?
Yes, we had a staff recommended just retaining the R3 there, just don't change anything, just leave it as is as the buffer. And then through conversation, the plan commission opted for the OR zoning instead, because the neighborhood was pretty adamant about not wanting multifamily. OR still kind of allows some of that, but you all felt that OR was a better suited buffer than R3 for the meantime. In
But
case
at
solar
that
development
time,
came
we were
through.
considering the need for a buffer,
Yes.
which is precisely what I understand the people during the hearing to have been asking for.
Got a question, when did the letters go out? To the people?
Those go up, those would go up the same day they should have received them. Cause it's a 10-day,
10 days?
10 days
So,
prior,
It's been the 13th, they were due on our end.
yeah, so that's when they.
Okay, because I looked through my emails, I didn't get an email on the 19th. And maybe, I don't know why. So the first I heard of it was when constituents started calling me the next day, when they got information. And so I've been going back and forth with a number of constituents on this issue, and it seems to me that the timeframe of notification one has really been less than a week. And I'm a little bit concerned that the full breadth of people didn't know. The neighborhood association didn't know. So I think I'm going to make a motion to delay this to the next meeting. So there's time. then people can be notified and come in. Cause I don't wanna just see a fraction of people, I wanna see the people who have concerns about this. And allow this body to hear it, so.
Just as an FYI, I kind of did a quick click along the parcels there, probably more than 50% are, at least the tax bills are going to that address, so they're the owner occupied or.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Again, we don't know if they're owner occupied, but generally where the tax bills go is where the owner.
And I should say too that, Chris was the only person that I did get contact from, other than Alder Hutchinson.
Yeah. I contacted right away, and I probably had emails from at least 2, maybe 3 other people on science. For instance here.
So you want to hold it till the October 9th.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a motion to hold this agenda item. October 9th.
Second,
I did hear a second from.
Yep, so we got a motion by Alder Hutchinson, a second by Commissioner Braddock. Do you have any further discussion on this right now?
Yes, oh,
No, go ahead.
sure, just.
I'm gonna ask for something additional, so go ahead.
Okay, just, I was going to make the same motion to postpone it. I think there was a miscommunication with the notification. So we need to clean up a little bit, but I also was, when I was reading the proposal, there's a few things that need to be answered, and after hearing the open testimony. Obviously with a new dentist office going in, I think that there might be some more details we could provide the public. On those types of things, if the draft is being worked on. It also seems like this wouldn't go through anyway, as you said, the building has to change and a lot has to change for this to go through, so. I wish we could show everyone what it will actually closer to look like. When it's all said and done, rather than say this will change, but please approve it, so that doesn't like.
Well, yeah,
Sure,
the
gonna
site
say the
plan,
same thing.
yeah, the site plan isn't what we're approving here tonight, though,
Correct,
so like
the
it does
draft.
give some. You know, it makes the neighborhood and maybe the plan commission feel good, but it's the zoning, so you have to take into consideration
Correct.
everything that can happen within a zoning district, so they would not be held to that site plan, even if they said this is the final one. They would still, that would be their prerogative to change the use and the site plan at any time. So just something to keep in mind with rezonings.
And we could request, they do more outreach. I don't know if we would request that on sites that are not being requested to be rezoned. I mean, we could request it, but I don't think they would, if they chose not to.
If they chose not to reach out to.
If it's like you said, if the dental office is in a district that it allows a dental
I
office.
see, I see.
We can't tell them they have to go talk to people about it, it's permitted use. So, only really where they're asking for the zone change. We should request that.
So we could ask that of Mach 4. That they have some kind of meeting with the neighborhood,
Good.
which might be very helpful given the concerns about notification.
The petitioner was raising their hands, so I make a motion open the floor.
Motion by Commissioner Braddock, second by Alder Hutchinson to open the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Bob Mock again with Mock 4. Couple of items regarding the notification of neighbors. This isn't, we're not requesting a PDD here. Like I mentioned, this is going through straight zoning. So if you're going to make that request, don't request it of us, request it from the property owner. Because they're ultimately the ones who are going to have to pay for that. And those services that are provided. So key distinction there, ask the owners, not us, we're just their agents. Secondly, the buffer area that we're talking about is 200 feet deep, correct?
Mhm.
So could you flip back to the layout of this project? Other than the driveway that accesses Finger Road, and there's no access available for all of these properties to Mason Street. It's DOT purchased restricted access. We cannot put a driveway through there. So our choice is Finger Road. So other than the driveway to Finger Road, there is no development in that 200 feet. As David mentioned earlier, if this stays OR, we can put multifamily there. That's an allowable use. Multifamily is allowable in OR. OR requires a minimum floor area ratio of 0.3, along with a minimum green space of 40%, right, David?
Probably.
Okay.
Not sure. off the
So-
top of my head.
The problem,
40 or 30.
the problem with your transitional neighborhood commercial, or office residential neighborhood commercial is they require very intense development. To get them to work and not require any variances, you have to build 2- and 3-story buildings. You have to do multifamily. You have to do underground parking. Otherwise, they're just not feasible for single-story professional office space or traditional retail. It just doesn't work. And if there's, like on this lot, if there's any environmental concerns, like the wetlands, which we are avoiding entirely, at that point, it's impossible to meet with the OR zoning. So again, on this site, all of our development is outside of that OR. We're just doing this, and likely with the wetlands there's probably not going to be much of anything happening in that area. We're going through this rezoning to get it the way we originally requested, because we can't do a land division with the split zoning. And then without the land division, we can't have a site plan. So this is the linchpin in that. And if it stays OR, you're either gonna have multifamily or probably nothing on this property.
Excuse me, I would assume that as the agent of the owner, it would be appropriate for us to request you to communicate to the owner that we would like them to host a meeting with the neighborhood.
We can let them know. They, again, they may say no. So. just-
Can you give us an estimate of vehicle traffic that this would entail versus some other development, so we can get a comparison of what it means to finger brand?
I don't know the trip generation numbers off the top of my head for the daycare. For those of us who've been around daycares, we know that those trips are concentrated in the morning and the evening, and for the most part during the day and on the weekends and in the evenings, there's no traffic that it generates. It generates traffic more or less when people are going to work. The dental clinic on the property west of this, it's a proposed dental surgery center. So it's going to be a pretty low volume situation.
Okay, I think it would be helpful, because I think I'm hearing concerns of additional traffic on Finger Road, and I'd like to know how this development would compare to something else that could actually go in there. And if this is on the low end versus the higher end. I just want to know where this is. Just for the sake of factual information on Finger Road.
Okay, so comparing traffic counts for the 2 proposed uses to the most extreme allowable use in both C1 and OR.
C1, I don't think.
Well, let's just say we
Okay. You can
submitted
do-
a
you can do
CSM and
both.
lopped off the OR as
Sure.
OR and did the C1 and said, okay, what can we fit in here?
Sure,
What are the most intense uses?
that would be helpful, and that would be addressing the exact concerns that have been stated, so.
Yep, and I
Point of
also don't know those traffic counts off the top of my head. We would have to look at the IT manual and.
Yeah, just anything that would help support the discussion of the development of this site.
Anything else that you would like to see? And who's the request for the neighborhood meeting going to come from? Is that gonna come from planning staff?
Well, that request is happening right now. We will inform the property owner, but. Happening right now.
Okay.
From the plan commission, if they approve that.
Can we
motion
make
to
sure
hold
we have right contact information tonight? Could we have the email of, the neighborhood association? Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah, if anybody's here, I'll put a piece of paper, up, sign up, put your email, phone number, address maybe.
Point of information, even with all these statistics about traffic and everything, from what staff had just said, the purposes and uses of this property could change overnight tomorrow, because this is not talking about any of that, it's talking about zoning, correct? So this is all arbitrary. It's the good faith, yeah.
So the daycare could, that project could get pulled and it could become something
Right.
entirely
Completely
different.
So I know we're looking at the daycare, that's secondary, we're changing the zoning, but I wanna. You know, this is a step forward towards the daycare, and it would help me put in my mind where that sits in relationship to everything that can go there. It would help other people determine. You know, what's going there, based on the zoning change that's being proposed.
I think I support your suggestion, particularly because of the FAR issue, which raises the question of how they're going to address building to land ratio. Given that it is a much larger piece of land than we have with it, that we're seeing on the screen right now.
Is there a schedule that you're looking at as the developer of this for the owner to meet? I mean, is there a crucial time coming, or is it kind of loose?
Month delay won't be well received.
Okay, well, yeah, it is what it is, I guess.
I mean, we have site plan in and just pending this rezone. I believe the other issues, everything is ready to go. And the majority of the property is already zoned C1.
What is the date of the next plan commission meeting?
Sorry.
Okay. So 2 weeks.
So is the OR section of that lot, is that just where the wetlands are, or is it it's not that entire lot?
No.
It's just,
It's just the top 200 feet.
Northern 200 feet. How much where that driveway.
This portion is like. You know, maybe it's like. This. Sort of.
okay.
It was meant to kind of align with this front section here.
So most of that is wetlands, which,
No, I was.
Is
because we created that buffer, but the wetlands kind of created the buffer for us.
In that, and for that lot specifically.
Right.
To the west.
But we didn't have it all the way over anyway.
Can I point something out on here? The OR area also went around the existing house, so this is part of, I brought up the depth of it, because it does apply to both of the future lots.
I see.
So it's not just the lot.
So right now, we're talking about lot 3, but lot 2 is also that future dental development that you were talking about.
Correct. Which is why I brought it
That
up.
we have not received or had any.
Yeah,
But
and I
the OR goes
Knowledge.
through 2 and 3.
presented it because it was
Relevant.
relevant information.
The existing buildings that are on the line between 2 and 3, what are those?
It's an old farmhouse.
Old house.
Yeah, I don't know if it's occupied.
I was gonna say, it's just,
Is that what is shown in the red hatched property under discussion on the far
on the aerial.
west side, but within the property under current discussion?
I would guess that the house is here.
That's correct.
It shows it on the aerial
Yeah,
map, if you
okay,
have it
that's what I thought,
there.
yeah.
And with the site plan, are they gonna be doing any kind of traffic study on that, or, I mean, any development is gonna be more than what's currently there, because there's nothing there right now.
Correct, and we did have talked to Public Works about that, and they did not feel it.
It warranted it.
However, it goes to more So sort of the general thought, in this east side Mason Finger Road areas, if you're on a corner with Ontario or Grandview or Erie, could be acceptable from an auto-oriented type of use, so something with a drive-through or a something like that, but the interior wouldn't be. And that's, we can't say that, the zoning council has to say that. That's why Dina mentioned that staff would not be supportive of an interior auto-oriented use, like a car lot or a drive-through restaurant. Auto repair.
And they would need to come through this body to get that.
To get a conditional use.
And we're just, wouldn't say none of that.
Well, staff is saying that we wouldn't support that,
Right.
the way the area is laid out now.
Right, because we don't have a set site plan for what's going in there, and this is just zoning that we're talking about right now.
Well, auto-oriented uses typically need a lot more frontage, they don't have the frontage. So. It's not good for either them or. City.
I will be
My
voting
opinion.
in support of the motion to delay this for 2 weeks, and I would appreciate it if the staff would be prepared to discuss why they no longer think that the OR buffer is needed at this particular corner, because that certainly goes to the question of whether or not we change the zone.
And say why, rather than think of it as a buffer, it's a holding zone. So OR allows uses in there, probably allows a daycare use. I know it allows a daycare use. It just have to be a bigger building on a smaller lot.
But
And you'd have to cut that parcel where the zoning line is as well. So it was sort of a, less of a buffer, more of a holding, like a rural residential. Holding, we didn't know what used to come.
But
So-
Barry Hanson said that the wetlands kind of makes a natural buffer already to that
Kind of.
location. Was that discussed in the last?
We didn't know the wetlands were there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was all brought up, Mach 4 probably
When they-
identified them.
Right,
As part of the land division that got put
Correct.
on there and as part of the site plan. So even if they would have done the rezoning first. probably looked at that.
So let me phrase the question in a different way then. Why, I would be curious to know why the staff thinks that a buffering area is not needed there for the intense residential area right across the street. And I don't need an answer right now.
I'm gonna think about it.
This is based on the assumption that we are holding this over for 2 weeks. And I suppose we should vote on that, but I see we do have another more beyond, so it's just.
The floor is open, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. But it's.
do we have any more questions of the applicant?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
See your name and address again for the record.
Chris Hanold, 613 Walnut Avenue, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54311. I've just written kind of a few notes down. Going back to that meeting, actually it was July 11th is when it was rezoned from an R3 over to a C1. And actually that buffer zone was going to remain in R3 until it was through discussion spoken of to go to the OR. I think the main concern were the traffic concerns in there. I was actually surprised that it was rezoned to an OR. I don't know how we got from the R3 to the OR. But I like the thought of the fact finding to be able to find out all the details of this and just overall plans. One of the things that I believe in is facts versus feelings, right? And one of the things that we don't have facts on right now, if you pull up that map, is that already zoned C1 area, really on the corner of Mason, Ontario. So, you know, we can take a look at traffic counts all day, but I would like to understand what is the plan, which I already know, but publicly, I think it would be good for the neighborhood to know how that traffic is going to be impacted on the corner of Mason, Finger, in Ontario. As it was mentioned, there's DOT restricted access on Mason Street. So we know that there's not going to be driveways coming in from Mason, which once again is going to increase that traffic. But knowing what that commercialized area over there, we could get a traffic indication of what it is today. That's going to be nothing compared to what we understand of what will go in there with the coffee shop. I think that's going to heavily impact traffic. And even though it's stated, and I guess my request is, could we request more information on what that impact would look like prior to the rezone? And in addition to that, the traffic flow from something like a daycare and a coffee shop are heavy in the morning and at 3 o'clock. And this is the exact time when my concern comes into play with all the children. at that time. So the whole issue of it being whether it's a daycare, coffee shop, dental office, those are main traffic times of, they open at 8 AM, daycare's earlier. So I don't know that that thought process helps alleviate it. But in addition to that, I'll even say a higher building, I don't think concerns anybody. In that plat of land, that's a huge apartment building that is 3 stories tall. I think the main issue we're concerned about is traffic, not sight. So just to kind of notate some of the comments that were made, it would be good to have that information fact finding for the neighborhood association. So I appreciate the opportunity, at least for us to find some more of those details out. Thank you.
Do we have any further discussion? Yes,
Motion to close the floor.
motion by Commissioner Praddick, second by Vice Chair Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so then we have a motion on the floor to delay till the October 9th meeting by Alder Hutchinson, second by Commissioner Praddick. Do we have any further discussion on this?
Yes, please. I do appreciate all the discussion here, but I think we're dancing around the actual problem here, which is a street that is not designed for what it's currently being used for. And I think this addresses a lot of the problems that we're hearing of concerns around traffic, proper pedestrian facilities, so people are not walking on the shoulder of a road versus an actual sidewalk. You can have pedestrian calming, you can have stops, all these things that would make the neighborhood safer. Especially when you're having commercial business, coffee shops, Uncle Mike's, all these places that are traffic in, don't you want to serve the neighborhood that's there as well too? And this is gonna keep coming up each time we have a different proposal along this. It's gonna keep reverting to the same problem. So I know that's not our jurisdiction of what we're concerned with, but that's the problem, is the street is not built for what it's being asked to be used for right now. And DPW needs to look at it. We need to get the council on to start asking questions about this stuff too, because we're gonna keep having this discussion over and over again every time new business wants to open on there, and the neighborhood's just gonna get more and more ticked off. If we put some nice pedestrian facilities, wide sidewalks, stop signs, the rapid flashing indicators, all these things that make these streets safer, I bet the neighborhood's gonna be a lot more supportive of businesses coming in that they may wanna go to. But right now, they're having to cross the street where people are speeding, it's not controlled, it's not built for what it's there, so, sorry, a little bit of tangent, but that's really what the problem is, and we need to address that, otherwise we're gonna keep doing this song dance every time the government comes up.
It's a good insight, Jake, thanks.
Yeah, we can get comments from DPW before the next meeting.
I mean, I know they can't whip something up.
They might already have something in the works and we just don't know it.
Yeah, it would just be good to know, like, hey, this is in the works, we have ideas, you know, there's complete street stuff is all pretty easy for something like this, I don't need a mock-up, but tell us what it would look like, and, you know, maybe where the crossings would be, stuff like that. I think that would help a lot, if somebody from DPW could be here for that meeting, that'd be even better, but not gonna comment.
So, and they could also,
A comment would be fine.
yeah, they could also talk about what the timing is on the road reconstruction, what impacts that would have on.
Yeah. I think it's crucial to the discussion of what's going on here.
Well, and this is an area, as you know already, you just said it, that it's almost every 3 months we have something going on out in this area. It's, the city is developing.
Just for a point of clarification, with notifications, just to settle that for everyone present, when do notifications go out to the alders?
Same day as the public, so 10 days prior.
10 days prior, okay, to the meeting tonight, so it'd be 10. Okay. And that's the same time when signs would go up as well, letters be sent out.
Signs aren't required until, well, actually, they're not required at all. We do them the week before, generally. After our staff reports are done.
Okay.
That sign was effective, by the way, so just so you know.
I was working, it was in the ditch. I'm like, I don't know about this one.
Well, that's why, if you remember, we only did, so again, state statute doesn't require any notification at all, the plan commission policy. And then we just updated the signs in 2019 or 2020, I think,
Mhm.
started using the signs as well. So partially because a lot of times, as Stephanie had said, the owners don't notify tenants. And then tenants are really the ones impacted. Because they live there.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more from the neighbors and the neighborhood association. I'm assuming no one had objected to anything. I'm assuming they'll be able to meet or have some communication in the next 2 weeks. talk about how.
Yeah, it's gonna probably have to happen relatively soon.
Correct, yeah.
2 weeks is pretty tight time frame to
Yeah,
notify and get a meeting place.
so,
Not to put more onus if we get people here, not, it's gonna cover everything, but at least we're gonna get voices from. For the neighborhood if they do come to our meeting on the night.
And then even after that, if it was to be approved or denied, they can still come out to council meeting a week after that. So there's 3 weeks.
And it's a rezone, so those come.
Okay,
But I agree with Vice Chair Miller that the situation is the zone and that's not gonna change anything, no matter what. I mean, unless we know what's going to go in that property. I think we have to reflect on that a little bit more, because I think in good faith, we can kind of have an idea of what's going in there, but if we know what's eligible to go in there today without any approval from us, it'd be helpful.
What we typically do is look at the C1 district or whatever district you're proposing, we look at the most intensive use, because that's what could go. A lot of times you'll get somebody in requesting a zone change to an industrial zone and say, well, I'm only doing a little contractor's shop. They never have to build it. It could turn into a Carroll Concrete the next day. So you gotta look at what uses are in the districts. Again, Dean, I think said it, the site plan doesn't really matter. Lot 4 could be showing you a Taj Mahal right now.
Right now.
any further discussion? We have a motion on the floor to hold this to the October 9th meeting by Alder Hutchinson, with a second by Commissioner Craddock. Go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then this item then will be held over until the October 9th meeting.
Correct, letters will not go back, hold staff, let any of your neighbors know and your association know that it's going on the 9th, and then I'm not sure what the petitioner will be. Some people go knocking door to door, some send out letters, some send out postcards. It's pretty tight time frame. So I mean, if you get a letter drafted in a couple of days, get it mailed. Now you only get a much shorter time frame to enact this one.
All right, excellent. Then moving on to item number 6. Consideration with possible action on a request by Basudev Mahari of Green Bay Area Business Development LLC applicant, Green Bay Retail Center LLC property owner for a conditional use permit to allow a convenience store, drive-through restaurant and fueling gas service station use within a downtown district at 201 North Monroe Ave.
Madam Chairman. So this item was first brought to the Plan Commission July 24th. It was asked to be held at that time, I believe by the, well, at that time it got a 2-2 vote from the Plan Commission, so no recommendation that went on to council. The property owner requested it be held at that point. And it was held. And sent back to the Plan Commission. And I believe that was the August 1st meeting. At that meeting, if you've been following some of the paper, it was the Brown County Board voted to purchase the property. Subsequently vetoed by the Brown County Executive, and then passed again by the, overturned by the Brown County Board once again. So the petitioner, it's still an active item. The petitioner has not pulled it. We contacted him, requested him to pull the application. He does not want to pull it until the ink is on the purchase agreement or the title. So at this point, we're kind of in a holding zone with that. And we would just recommend not hold it through October, but hold it until either the petitioner is moving forward or staff puts it back on.
We don't have to put a date, we can just put it at staff's discretion.
Correct. Because really they start going, is now it's gonna be bargaining, I'm assuming, you know, the price point. But I don't know how long that would take. The other option is you could just vote on it based on what you have in your packet, but the petitioner would request that you don't do that.
Yeah.
So the recommendation is to hold,
An indefinite.
indefinite hold for either staff or the petitioner to bring it forward again.
Correct. Exactly.
Just point of clarification, I thought that we weren't supposed to do any indefinite goals, no matter what, in the law department.
Well, this one is technically not indefinite, it would be until staff is report. Well, you could say. It's not a table, but it's.
If we were to deny hypothetically, could they submit it if there's a change again, or would that be?
If you made a recommend,
It's like a year, don't they have to wait?
They have to
Correct.
wait.
If
They
it's
would not be able
declined,
to just
yeah.
submit it again with changes, okay?
and it would go forward back to the council at that point, who had sent it back to you.
Yeah, I don't think we wanna do that.
No.
But consider the options.
I like the conversation.
So if you want to give it a finite date, you can,
It's not necessary though,
We could just keep postponing it again.
right?
correct.
It could just be quick. Hold.
And this was a request by the petitioner, so it's
Yeah.
not. It's not, you're not tabling it for it never to be discussed again. It can come back and petition us. Or staff.
Yeah, we'll clean it up eventually if they don't, so.
Yeah, if, you know, we'll put it back on for action if they are just. Have a day going open.
When's the time frame that things will likely be finalized in Brown County? Don't know.
I have no idea. I'm sure right now they're doing price negotiations.
Oh, well, then by the end of the year,
I would hope so.
can we table this till the last meeting in this year and have it come up again?
So you could do that if that, and that might satisfy the law department better. You could say table it until staff of the petitioner brings back or last meeting of the year. So it has a finite definite. That way we move.
Right back up.
Second,
Who first did that?
I still moved it. I still never still moved.
All right, so the motion by Alder Hutchinson is second by Commissioner Bremer.
No,
Oh, Commissioner Braddock, all right. To hold it until the petitioner or staff brings it forward or the last meeting of the year. Excellent. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then that item is held. Moving on to informational, director's reports.
Well, not much of a director's report. I will tell you one thing. I'm not the director, but I will say everything pretty much has gone through the council without much discussion, except for the Third Street vacation. Alder Johnson had requested that be held, in case we use it for something. So that is, and that was tabled. At the council, everything else was fine. I do want to announce that our new development director is Cheryl Rennie-Wade. So she
Oh,
was
excellent.
officially promoted by the council, or I guess you don't call it promoted, but accepted,
Yeah.
signed.
Right.
Appointed at the last,
Appointed.
at the last council, so that's very exciting. She's been here for over 30 years.
yeah, she knows it pretty well.
Yeah. She would love to be here tonight, but I think she was at personnel. She had to go to.
That's good news, thank you.
and that means her former position.
It does.
All right, the date of the next meeting is October 9th of 2023.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
A motion by Commissioner Braddock, second by Vice Chair Miller to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, you're adjourned.